The Midwest, where the corn grows tall, the winters are brutal, and sometimes the guys running the local trucking company know a little more about business than they should. For decades, from Chicago to Milwaukee to Kansas City and Omaha, certain gentlemen in nice suits handled problems quietly, very quietly. And now, you can bring that same heartland problem-solving tradition into your own home. Introducing the Midwest Mob Problem Solver Kit, the only household product inspired by the legendary operations of the American Midwest. Inside every box you'll receive the Union Hall negotiation table, perfect for discussing contracts, debts, or who exactly forgot to pay their gambling tab. The Cornfield Privacy Guarantee, because sometimes certain conversations require a very quiet location. The Teamster's Timekeeper Stopwatch, used to measure exactly how long it takes someone to suddenly remember the truth. And of course, the Midwest Ledger of Favors, because around here, nobody forgets who owes who. But wait, there's more. Order today and we'll include the Emergency Alibi Generator, Midwest Edition. Spin the dial and instantly receive classic excuses like, I was at the bowling league. I was helping my cousin move snow. I was at the church fish fry. Or the Midwest Classic, I don't know nothing about that. Thousands of satisfied customers from Chicago to Kansas City agree. Sometimes problems don't require lawyers. Sometimes they just require the Midwest Mob Problem Solver Kit. Available now. Exclusively from Pizzaverse Studios and Palermo Productions. Because when things get complicated, the Midwest has always had a way of keeping things nice and quiet.
Nicky Santoro's crew in Casino, the real hole in the wall gang. A Pizzaverse Studios documentary. A Palermo Productions original. Written by Bambi Palermo. Narrated by Vincent DiPrio. Nicky Santoro's crew in Casino is a montage. That's all Scorsese gave them. A handful of nameless guys cutting holes in roofs, grabbing furs, loading vans, background action behind Joe Pesci's performance. The film doesn't name them. It doesn't tell you what happened to them. It treats them like set dressing for the real story, interchangeable muscle that exists only to illustrate Nicky's recklessness before the outfit buries him in a cornfield. The real crew behind that montage had faces, names, roles, and endings. This is the real roster, how the machine they built actually worked, and the specific way it consumed every man inside it. The crew without faces. Nicky Santoro's crew in Casino is a montage. That's all Scorsese gave them. A handful of nameless guys cutting holes in roofs, grabbing furs, loading vans, background action behind Joe Pesci's performance. The film doesn't name them. It doesn't tell you what happened to them. It treats them like set dressing for the real story, interchangeable muscle that exists only to illustrate Nicky's recklessness before the outfit buries him in a cornfield. The real crew behind that montage had a dozen men in it. One was a corrupt Las Vegas Metro detective named Joe Blasco, who played minor league baseball in the San Francisco Giants organization before feeding Tony Spilotro the names of undercover agents while still carrying a badge. One was a triple murderer named Larry Newman, who stood 6'4", had a tested IQ of 169, and did 1,000 sit-ups a day in a prison cell he didn't need to occupy. He had a family trust fund. One was an alarm specialist named Sal Romano, who could disassemble any lock ever manufactured, and who was working for the FBI the entire time the crew existed, wearing a wire to every planning meeting, reporting every target to his handler before the job began. One was a man from New Jersey named Ernie Davino, whose father had been an enforcer for Albert Anastasia, and who would eventually find a rosary on his prison bunk and spend the rest of his life in ministry. Every one of them has a documented name, a documented role, and a documented ending. Almost nobody who's watched Casino can name a single one. That's the version Scorsese told, a crew without faces. The Skim. Here's the real roster, how the machine they built actually worked, and the specific way it consumed every man inside it. Tony Spilotro arrived in Las Vegas in 1971. He was 33 years old, sent by Tony Accardo to replace Marshall Cafano as the Chicago outfit's representative west of the Mississippi. His primary mandate was protecting the casino skim, the untaxed cash flowing out of the Stardust, the Fremont, the Hacienda, and the Marina, all controlled through Alan Glick's Argent Corporation and financed by approximately $146 million in Teamsters Central States Pension Fund loans. The scale of that skim was staggering. The Stardust alone was yielding roughly $400,000 a month in cash that never appeared on any official count. Before the numbers reached the gaming control board, trusted employees removed the money and placed it in separate containers. Couriers, outfit associates traveling on commercial flights in business attire, carrying briefcases that appeared ordinary, transported the cash from Las Vegas to Kansas City, to Chicago, to Milwaukee, to Cleveland on regular schedules designed to avoid patterns. One Teamster official was observed by the FBI stuffing bills into pockets sewn inside his suit coat at the highway rest area in broad daylight. The skim required one thing above all others: silence. Absolute structural invisibility. The man they sent to protect it couldn't stay quiet. The Gold Rush. In 1976, Spilotro opened the Gold Rush Limited Jewelry Store at 228 West Sahara Avenue. On paper, it was retail. In practice, it was a fencing hub, a bookmaking center, and a loan sharking office, and the operational headquarters of a burglary crew that would come to be known as the Hole in the Wall Gang. The man he trusted to run it day to day was a childhood friend from the Grand Avenue neighborhood in Chicago, a man named Frank Culotta. And that friendship would survive everything except one phone call from an FBI agent named Charlie Parsons. The FBI would later determine that roughly 70% of the Gold Rush's inventory had been reported stolen. Agent William Romer wrote that most of the top thieves in the country, especially in the western half, fenced their goods through that store. But the store's alarm specialist, a self-taught electronics genius, recruited specifically for his ability to defeat sophisticated security systems, was recording every conversation for the FBI from the day he set foot in Las Vegas. And the outfits with Spilotro's side operation would last exactly until January 1986, when boss Joey Ayupa heard his 28-and-a-half-year sentence in the Strawman Casino skimming trial and decided who was to blame. Crazy Larry. The crew included a man who'd killed 3 people in a bar because the bartender shortchanged him and had a tested IQ of 169. Lawrence Newman, Crazy Larry, was born around 1928 in McHenry County, Illinois, to a family with money. He had income from a trust fund. He chose crime not from necessity, but from something deeper and darker than economics can explain. In 1956, enraged over being shortchanged at an uptown bar in Chicago, he left, returned with a shotgun, and killed the bartender, a waitress, and a newsboy who happened to walk through the door. Convicted of triple murder, sentenced to 125 years, paroled after roughly 12 to 16 years. The details of the parole itself remain poorly documented, which tells you something about how the Illinois correction system worked in that era. He stood 6'4", weighed 250 pounds, had hands so large that authorities had difficulty getting clean fingerprints. He was a fitness devotee. The 1,000 daily sit-ups were documented by multiple sources. Even Spilotro was afraid of him. According to Carlotta's later testimony, Newman would fly into Vegas specifically for scores and depart immediately from airports in California or Arizona, never from Las Vegas itself, never leaving a local travel record. He was the crew's enforcer and its most dangerous member. During a jewelry store robbery in Chicago with Wayne Matecki, after the score was already completed and the merchandise secured, Newman grabbed a machete off the wall and hacked the store's owner, a jeweler named Bob Brown, to death. He told Matecki afterwards that he wanted it to look like a crazy person had done the killing. That wasn't an excuse. It was a description. Culotta, Blitzstein, Blasco, Matecki, Guardino, Davino. Frank Culotta moved to Las Vegas in early 1979 at the direction of Joey Lombardo, who told him Spilotro needed a trusted man. Culotta and Spilotro had known each other since boyhood, a territorial dispute over shoeshine spots on Grand Avenue in the neighborhood Chicagoans called The Patch. Culotta's father, Joseph Raymond Culotta, had died during a police pursuit when Frank was 8 years old. He dropped out of Steinmetz High School in 9th grade and never went back. In Vegas, Culotta became the crew's day-to-day operational leader, the man who recruited members, identified targets, planned the entries, and managed the logistics. With Leo Guardino, he opened the Upper Crust Pizza restaurant at 4110 South Maryland Parkway, using $65,000 from 3 residential burglaries. The restaurant, which Culotta credited with introducing Chicago deep dish pizza to Las Vegas, functioned as the crew's planning headquarters. He later admitted involvement in over 300 crimes, including 4 murders. The most documented was the October 1979 killing of Sherwin Leisner at his home on Rawhide Avenue. Leisner was about to testify before a grand jury. Culotta shot him approximately 12 times in the head with a .22 caliber handgun. When Leisner survived the initial shots and fought back, Culotta attempted to strangle him with a water cooler cord before finishing him off. Herbert Blitzstein, Fat Herbie, was Spilotro's right-hand man, rarely seen more than a few feet from him. Born in 1934 in Chicago, Jewish, roughly 300 pounds, he drove a white 1973 Cadillac Eldorado and dressed in a way that people remembered. He served as secretary-treasurer of the Gold Rush. His primary function within the crew was fencing the stolen jewelry and valuables, running the bookmaking lines from behind the counter, and phoning odds to contacts in Chicago. His ending would come 11 years after Spilotro's death, and it would arrive from a direction nobody in the original crew saw coming. Joe Blasco had played minor league baseball in the Giants and Red Sox organizations before becoming a Las Vegas Metropolitan Police detective. While on the force, FBI wiretaps caught him passing intelligence directly to Spilotro, surveillance schedules, home addresses of potential burglary targets, the identities of undercover agents working outfit cases. Fired from Metro in 1978, he walked directly from the police department into Spilotro's operation. During jobs, he sat in a white commercial van with police scanners monitoring law enforcement frequencies, spotting tails, and using his training to keep the crew clear of surveillance. He was the crew's eyes and ears on the outside of every building they entered. Wayne Matecki was an anomaly. Born around 1951 in the Chicago suburbs in the Northridge and Rolling Meadows area, he had no prior criminal record of any kind, which made him operationally valuable because Las Vegas law enforcement had no file on him and no face to match. He never moved to Vegas permanently. He flew in for specific scores and departed immediately. Carlotta tested him early by having him hide inside a Las Vegas store after closing, collect furs and expensive items, break out through a back entrance, and load a waiting car. He passed. He became an integral part of the entry team alongside Guardino. Leo Guardino was a career burglar from Chicago who'd spent a lifetime in and out of jail. He co-owned the upper crust with Carlotta and specialized in the physical work of the break-ins, the climbing, the cutting, the dropping through ceilings. Ernie DeVino came from New Jersey, the only core member who wasn't from Chicago. His father, Ernest DeVino Sr., had been an enforcer for Albert Anastasia in the 1950s. DeVino later claimed that he and Guardino had started their own burglary operation in Las Vegas before Carlotta and Spilotro absorbed them into the larger crew. Spilotro at one point ordered Newman to kill DeVino, suspecting he was cooperating with law enforcement. Carlotta recalled Spilotro saying he wanted to cut Ernie DeVino up in little bitty pieces and dispose of him in Lake Mead. Bertha's arrest likely saved DeVino's life, though he didn't know that at the time. How the crew worked. Before getting to how this operation actually worked at the mechanical level and to the man inside it who was recording everything for the FBI, consider this. Looking at this crew, which one do you think survived the longest? Here's the detail that explains everything about how this crew operated. They never went through a door. The hole-in-the-wall gang earned its name from a devastatingly simple innovation. Standard burglar alarms in the late 1970s and early 80s protected doors and windows, the expected points of entry. Walls and roofs, the surfaces nobody anticipated anyone coming through, were typically unalarmed. Spilotro's crew climbed onto rooftops carrying acetylene torches, sledgehammers, power drills, saws, and ladders, cut through stucco walls and ceilings, and dropped directly into the target space above safes and merchandise displays. They communicated between entrymen and lookouts using two-way radios. They never triggered the alarm systems because they bypassed the surfaces those systems were designed to protect. Targets were identified through a structured network that functioned like a low-level intelligence operation. Hotel staff who noticed high rollers flashing jewelry, car valets who overheard conversations about weekend plans, casino employees who knew which guests kept large amounts of cash in their rooms, cocktail waitresses, bellmen, desk clerks, someone. Las Vegas always knew someone worth hitting, and the crew had cultivated enough contacts that viable targets surfaced regularly. Tipsters received approximately 10% of the take from a successful job. Blasco used his law enforcement connections to pull home addresses, license plate registrations, and, according to Carlotta, the schedules of patrol units in specific neighborhoods. Culotta himself had taken a locksmith course as a teenager and later invented a custom tool to access ace alarm boxes, which gave the crew an additional edge on lower security targets. The crew evolved their targets systematically over time. Sears stores in the early days when they were still developing their technique, then drug dealers' stash houses, victims who'd never file a police report. Then jewelry stores, fur boutiques, and wealthy homes where they'd sledgehammer through the stucco exterior walls of desert residences to reach safes and closets on the other side. Spilotro took an equal share of every haul but never went on jobs himself. Crews kept all proceeds from scores under roughly $5,000. Anything above that required 10 to 20% sent up. The assumption from Casino, the way Scorsese plays the montage, is that the crew were reckless, impulsive thugs doing smash-and-grab work. Not quite. The real operation was methodical. Entry through unalarmed surfaces only, counter-surveillance by a trained detective in a van with multiple radio scanners, departures from out-of-state airports to avoid creating local travel records, scores that followed no predictable schedule. Metro Intelligence Commander Kent Clifford told state lawmakers in April 1981 that the crew had stolen more than $500,000 in documented cash and valuables. Culotta later estimated between 250 and 300 burglaries in Vegas by the time it ended. That number, $500,000, exposes the structural absurdity of the whole enterprise. The Stardust skim alone moved roughly $4.8 million a year in untaxed cash. The entire documented haul of the hole-in-the-wall gang across 5 years of work barely exceeded what the skim produced in 6 weeks. Spilotro was risking a $1 billion operation for pocket change, and the outfit didn't authorize it. Culotta testified that Spilotro told him in 1978 that no one back home knew he was taking a cut. The burglaries were a side hustle running underneath a silenced, dependent empire. Every job generated law enforcement attention that crept closer to the skim. This is the contradiction that destroyed everything. The attention paradox. It didn't matter how carefully individual scores were executed, how disciplined the entry was, or how methodical the counter-surveillance. The enterprise itself generated noise by its very existence, and noise was the one thing the skim could not survive. Sal Romano. The most important member of the hole-in-the-wall gang was working for the FBI the entire time. Salvatore Romano, Sal, was a self-taught electronics specialist, fascinated by locks and mechanical systems since childhood. He'd buy locks and disassemble them to understand how they worked. His first exposure to organized crime came through breaking into laundry machines for outfit boss Joseph Ferriola. He'd been a confidential informant for the Chicago police since 1959, 2 decades before the hole-in-the-wall gang existed. He was brought to Las Vegas by associate Peter Basile, specifically for his expertise in defeating sophisticated alarm systems that conventional tools couldn't handle. What nobody in the crew knew was that the FBI's Tucson office had turned Romano after catching him at O'Hare Airport with stolen furs from a Vegas job. The Bureau set him up in a Las Vegas apartment wired for sound and video. An undercover female agent posed as his airline attendant girlfriend. Romano wore recording devices under his clothes and reported every planned operation, every target, every piece of the crew's structure to his handler. A warning almost saved them. corrupt Chicago police commander William Hanhart, himself later convicted in 2002 of running a nationwide jewelry theft ring that netted over $5 million, sent 2 officers to alert Carlotta that Romano's arrest records had vanished from the Chicago PD system. Vanishing records were the signature of a protected informant. When the feds turned someone, the first thing they did was scrub the trail. Carlotta brought the warning directly to Spilotro. He laid it out plainly. Romano's file was gone, and that only happened for one reason. Spilotro dismissed it. He didn't want to lose an alarm man he couldn't replace. Instead, he ordered Carlotta to pair Romano with Larry Newman on the next job, and told Newman to kill Romano if anything seemed off. Romano survived because the next job was Bertha's, and by the time the crew arrived at Bertha's, the FBI had been in position for hours. Bertha's. 40 federal agents and Metro officers were already in position when Leo Guardino dropped through the roof of Bertha's Gifts and Home Furnishings, July 4th, 1981. The target was an upscale gift shop at 896 East Sahara Avenue, owned by a local entrepreneur named Bertha Beggs Ragland. The crew believed the safe held approximately $1 million in jewelry and cash. They chose Independence Day weekend deliberately. The store would be closed Saturday through Tuesday. Fireworks noise would cover the sound of drilling, and police would be concentrated on the strip handling holiday crowds. Romano had given the FBI everything: the target, the date, the timing, the crew assignments. Agents positioned themselves on a nearby 5-story building, with video cameras on adjacent rooftops behind air conditioning units, inside empty storefronts on the block, on a bank roof with a clear sight line, and most critically, inside Bertha's itself, to apprehend suspects the moment they entered. An FBI surveillance plane circled overhead. Law enforcement used a separate radio frequency for genuine communications while broadcasting false chatter on regular frequencies to deceive any scanner the crew might be running. The operation began around 7 in the evening as Carlotta and Newman drove counter-surveillance loops around the area. Blasco set up in his white van with scanners across the street. Metro Lieutenant Gene Smith, sitting at a traffic light on Sahara, dove to his car floor when Carlotta's Buick pulled up alongside. Around 9 a station wagon carrying Matecki, Guardino, and Davino arrived behind a Chinese restaurant at 1000 East Sahara, where they unloaded tools and a ladder. Romano slipped away by radioing Carlotta that his car battery was dead. Nobody questioned it. The 3 entrymen climbed onto the roof and spent roughly 3 hours drilling through it above the location of the safe. The sound of the power drill carried farther than they realized, but on July 4th in Las Vegas, with fireworks across the city, nobody called it in. Around 10:40 in the evening, Guardino was the first through. He penetrated the ceiling and dropped into the store carrying burglary tools, landing near the safe. That was the trigger agents had been waiting for. They needed evidence of intent to steal, not merely trespass, and a man standing next to a safe with a cutting torch in his hand was unambiguous. They came in from every side. Davino and Guardino surrendered inside. Mobile teams arrested Blasco, Newman, and Matecki outside without incident. Carlotta attempted a brief car chase before being stopped. As the arrested men were transported to the county jail, an agent in the van casually mentioned that Sal Romano must have gotten away. The crew went silent. They knew exactly what that meant. FBI Special Agent in Charge. Joseph Yablonsky held a press conference. Agent Emmett Michaels, who led the surveillance squad, called it the greatest night of his career. 6 men were arrested and charged: Culotta, Blasco, Guardino, Davino, Newman, and Matecchi. Spilotro, who wasn't present, was tracked down and arrested approximately 2 weeks later. The collapse. Within 5 years of Bertha's arrest, every core member of the crew was dead, imprisoned, or in hiding. And not one of them was destroyed the same way. Spilotro bailed out the crew, but within weeks wiretaps captured him talking about cleaning dirty laundry, and the people who needed cleaning were his own men. He ordered Newman to murder both Culotta and Matecchi. The logic was simple and lethal. Dead men don't testify, and Bertha's arrest had made testimony inevitable. Newman was actively trying to post bail to carry out the killings when authorities intervened. Culotta, sitting in a cell, knew exactly what the silence from Spilotro's end meant. The outfit had authorized a contract on his life. The man who'd been Culotta's friend since they were boys shining shoes on Grand Avenue had signed his death warrant. By July 1982, Culotta finalized his cooperation agreement with federal prosecutors. Agent Dennis Arnoldy, who became his handler later, called him the single most important witness in the breakup of Spilotro's criminal organization in Las Vegas. The defection was catastrophic, not just for Spilotro, but for the outfit's entire Western operation. Culotta's testimony produced 19 federal racketeering indictments, 15 convictions, and 5 Nevada state burglary convictions. In September 1983, a 17-count federal indictment named 18 defendants. 5 of Spilotro's subordinates eventually became government witnesses. The man the outfit had sent to Las Vegas to protect its most profitable operation had, through his own inability to resist running a side operation, generated a chain reaction that produced more cooperating witnesses than any single FBI investigation in the history of the Chicago mob. As journalist Jeff German later wrote of Spilotro, his fate was sealed years earlier on that 4th of July evening at Bertha's, where they ended. Newman was convicted of the Bob Brown jewelry store murder alongside Matecchi and sentenced to life without parole. He died in prison in January 2007 at 79 years old. The double murder he committed in 1981 at the PM Pub in Lakemore, Illinois, a bar owner named Ron Scharf and a waitress named Patricia Freeman, was never charged during his lifetime. In 2009, McHenry County authorities posthumously named him the prime suspect. Blitzstein's ending came from outside the original crew entirely. After Spilotro's death, Fat Herbie pleaded guilty to credit card fraud, conspiracy, and tax evasion. He served 8 years, suffered a heart attack in prison after being taken off heart medication, returned to Las Vegas in 1991, and set up a loan sharking operation with roughly $200,000 on the street and an auto insurance fraud business called Any Auto Repair on Fremont Street. On January 6, 1997, members of the Los Angeles and Buffalo crime families conspired to take over his rackets. His own business partner, Joe DeLuca, provided the key and alarm code to his townhome on Mount Vernon Avenue. According to testimony, Blitzstein raised his hands to his face and asked why before being shot 3 times in the head. He was 62. His murder is considered the last major mob-related killing in Las Vegas connected to the Spilotro era. Blasco served approximately 5 years between state and federal sentences. At his federal sentencing, he told Judge Lloyd George that he was tired of embarrassing himself. After prison, he worked as a bartender at the Crazy Horse 2 Gentlemen's Club. He died of a heart attack in November 2002. He was 67, survived by his wife, Diana, 2 sons and a daughter. Davino received 37 years total for burglary and related charges. In prison, he found a rosary lying on his bunk. He said later that it changed his life. After release, he dedicated himself to prison ministry in New Jersey. By the most recent available accounts, he was still alive, one of only 2 core members to survive into old age. Mateki was convicted of the Bob Brown murder. His precise sentence details and death date are poorly documented. He faded from the record. Guardino was convicted on burglary charges and likewise disappeared from documented history. The trail goes cold on both men. Romano entered the witness protection program and testified at multiple outfit trials over the next quarter century. At the 2007 Family Secrets trial, he appeared in a wheelchair. His famous anecdote during a botched burglary attempt in Phoenix, when a small dog started barking, Romano backed out of the job. When asked why he didn't just kill the dog, he said quietly, "I don't do dogs. He's believed to be deceased." Carlotta served 2 years at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in San Diego, entered the Witness Protection Program, and lived under assumed names in Texas, Colorado, Mississippi, and Alabama, moving whenever he felt the walls closing in, which was often. He voluntarily left the program in the mid-90s, returned to Las Vegas, the city where he'd committed hundreds of crimes, and helped destroy the man who'd been his closest friend since childhood, and built a second career as a mob tour guide, a technical advisor on Scorsese's Casino, and a co-author of 3 books with... He played the hitman Curly in the film, the scene where he shoots a character in a steakhouse parking lot, a murder loosely based on one he'd actually committed. In January 2020, he launched a YouTube channel called Coffee with Carlotta. 7 months later, he died of COVID-19 in a Las Vegas hospital. He was 81 years old, the last surviving operational member of the crew. The cornfield. The scene everyone remembers from Casino, the cornfield, the baseball bats, the shallow grave, didn't happen that way. The 2007 Family Secrets trial told a different story. On June 14, 1986, Tony and Michael Spilotro were lured with the promise that Michael would be inducted as a made member of the outfit and Tony promoted to capo. Michael was suspicious. Before leaving his Oak Park townhouse, he gave his daughter Michelle his jewelry in a plastic sandwich bag and told her he loved her at least 10 times. He told his wife Anne that if he wasn't back by 9:00, she should assume something was very wrong. Both brothers removed all valuables and personal identification. They went unarmed. James Marcello picked them up from a hotel parking lot on West Irving Park Road in Bensonville and drove them to a house believed to be a suburban DuPage County property connected to an outfit figure named Lee Magnifici. In the basement, approximately a dozen men waited wearing gloves. Nicholas Calabresi, James LaPietra, John Feccarota, John DeFranco, Sam Carlisi, Luis Eboli, Marcello, Luis Marino, Joseph Ferriola, Rocky Infelice, and 3 men Calabresi said he didn't recognize. Michael came down the stairs first. Calabresi testified that he said, "How you doing, Mike?" Then dove and tackled him around the legs. A body strangled him with a rope. Tony came down next and understood instantly what was happening. His last recorded words from Calabresi's testimony, "Can I say a prayer?" Mob historian John Binder later noted that the top guys had made a point of being there and participating before the brothers were dead. The forensic pathologist, Dr. John Plunkett, determined both deaths resulted from multiple blunt trauma injuries to the head, neck, and chest, fists and kicks, not baseball bats. their lungs and airways filled with blood. They died partly from asphyxiation. There was no evidence either had been bound. They were dead before they were buried, not buried alive as the film depicts. The bodies were stripped of their underwear and transported to Willow Slough Fish and Wildlife Area near Enos, Indiana, roughly 60 miles southeast of Chicago, about 12 miles from St. Anne, Illinois, where imprisoned boss Ayupa had once maintained a hunting club. The burial was botched. The 5-foot grave was dug in a newly planted cornfield where corn shoots were only 4 inches high, leaving the disturbed earth clearly visible to anyone who crossed the field. On June 22nd, farmer Michael Kins noticed the freshly turned soil while spreading chemicals. He thought a poacher had buried a deer. Wildlife officer Dick Hudson started digging. About 3 feet down, Hudson later told the Chicago Tribune, "My shovel hit him in the midsection. 2 bodies stacked one on top of the other." Dental records supplied by the brother's sibling, Dr. Patrick Spilotro, confirmed identification. 3 months after the burial, John Feccarota was murdered for botching the grave. During the killing, Calabresi was shot in the shoulder and dropped a bloody glove at the scene. That DNA evidence, recovered and preserved, became the leverage the FBI used years later to turn Calabresi into a cooperating witness. His testimony cracked open the entire family secrets case. In September 2007, all 5 defendants were found guilty. James Marcello received life in prison for the Spilotro murders. Scorsese couldn't have known any of this when he made Casino in 1995. The family secrets testimony came 12 years later. The correction isn't a criticism of the film. It's a completion of the record. What's left? The Gold Rush storefront at 228 West Sahara is a vape shop now. Bertha's is long gone, demolished, replaced, forgotten by anyone who didn't know what happened there on a July night in 1981. Frank Carlotta spent his final years driving tourists past the places where he'd committed his crimes, selling cookbooks and talking into a camera for a YouTube channel that accumulated a few thousand subscribers before the COVID virus took him. The cornfield near Enos, Indiana, where Tony and Michael Spilotro were found stacked one on top of the other, 5 feet under the dirt, is still farmed. The corn grows back every spring. Nobody who drives past it knows what's underneath. Scorsese gave you the myth. A montage. A few men with drills and torches. A crew without names, without history, without consequence. But the real story was never that simple. These were not faceless background thieves. They were identified men inside a machine built on burglary, surveillance, betrayal, and greed. Every one of them had a role. Every one of them had a record. And every one of them ended exactly where operations like this always end: dead, flipped, buried, imprisoned, erased, or left to spend the rest of their lives talking about a world that already swallowed them whole. That is what the montage leaves out. Not just who they were, but what systems like this do to the people inside them. The storefront changes. The city changes. The names fade. The corn keeps growing. But the record is still there for anybody willing to look. And now you know what was really underneath it. If you want more real stories like this, the ones buried underneath the movies, the headlines, and the mythology, make sure you subscribe to Pizzaverse Studios and Palermo Productions. Because around here, we don't stop at the legend. We go digging for the bones. And trust me, there's always something buried. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far, you didn't just watch a story. You saw what was underneath it. Not the version they sold you. Not the version they filmed. The version they left out. Every name. Every role. Every ending. This is Pizzaverse Studios. This is Palermo Productions. Written by Bambi Palermo. Narrated by Vincent DePrio. And around here, we don't cut corners. We don't clean it up. And we sure as hell don't leave things out. We show you what was really there. Tony Spilotro, the boss in Vegas. Chicago outfit enforcer sent to run Vegas. The real-life Nicky Santoro controlled the skim, then destroyed it. Frank Culotta, the one who flipped. Ran the crew day to day, planned hits and burglaries, became the key witness that brought it all down. Lawrence, Crazy Larry Newman. Triple murderer, high IQ, pure violence. Even Spilotro was wary of him. Herbert Fat Herbie Blitzstein. Fence, bookmaker, money man, always at Spilotro's side. Executed years later in a takeover hit. The hole in the wall gang in court.
Hey, Tony, how you feel about these charges? You have any statement for us today, Tony?
No comment.
Here we go. Go to the left, to the right square. No, then way that way. Step up.
Yeah, we should jump.
Where am I?
I didn't.
No, this way. How do we go?
Where do you want to go?
I guess the... Oh my goodness. That's funny. Whatever. I don't know. How we doing? Can we borrow that bike?
Watch yourself. Make sure you don't get hit by a car.
Jesus Christ. Step up.
That's all.
I think they run out. That's right. Trying to make this gas, baby.
Anthony Sessa, The Wolf of Philly. A Pizzaverse parody documentary. In a city built on cheesesteaks, bad bets, and second chances, one man stood out, not because he was the loudest, but because he always got paid first. They call him Anthony Sessa. Around here, they call him the Wolf of Philly. And let me tell you something, he didn't get that nickname because he howls at the moon. Nah, this guy, he howls at opportunity. He's the kind of guy who could sell a broken watch and convince you it's an antique. The kind of guy who negotiates with angels and still leaves with their halos. He's been kicked out of more boardrooms than I've been out of bars, and that's saying something. He ain't just a businessman. He's a one-man stock market. He'll raise your value, lower your expectations, and collect interest on the confusion. And when the deal's done, he gives you a bite of his fudge, smooth, dangerous, and addictive. Same way folks describe him. He don't just play the game. He rewrites the freaking rules. And if you're smart, you'll learn from him before you end up negotiating with guys like me. Anthony Sessa, the Wolf of Philly. Every bite's a deal you can't refuse. So remember, kid, in Philly, there's 3 types of people. The ones who talk, the ones who listen, and the ones who make a profit while the other 2 are arguing. Guess which one Sessa is? Coming soon to the Pizzaverse Network.
When I go into that ground, I won't go quietly. I'm bringing my crown. When I go into that ground, oh, they gotta bury me face down. From the rubble, what do I see? There's a whole damn army thinking that they're gonna harm me, saying that I'll never get free. Oh, I got troubles, they won't let me be. But I won't get tired, set the town on fire till my troubles got trouble with me. Thinking that they've won, it's only just begun. When I go into that ground, I won't go quietly. I'm bringing my crown. And when I go into that ground, oh, they gotta bury me face down. I've been on the run since I was a boy, but now I'm done running, got another thing coming. Watch my enemies get destroyed. Oh, I got troubles of more than one kind, but I never sleep. Gotta bury me 6 feet deep where the sun don't shine. Thinking that they've won, it's only just begun. When I go into that ground, I won't go quietly. I'm bringing my crown. And when I go into that ground, oh, they gotta bury me face down. I've been counted out, left for dead, wanted with a bounty on my head. But somehow, someway, I'ma keep moving along. Been counted out, left for dead, wanted with a bounty on my head. But somehow, someway, I'ma keep moving along. Thinking that they've won.